about 10,000 startups. And now it's time to get our first speaker on board. Sudeip has been championing the arts and cultural aspects of Bombay for a very long time. Most of the present famous stand-up comedians that you might know of, and some of whom that you might not know of, have all started from the platform that has been provided by Sudeep. And here to share his experiences about Culture Shock, Big Mike, Bombay Electric Project, and lately The Hype is Sudeep.
So I'm going to keep referring to my phone whenever I can. So thank you Head Start for having me here. It's a platform that I've been meaning to come to for a very long time, but I haven't had the time. Today I made the time. I'm very happy that I have. Just by a show of hands between all of you here, how many of you think you're funny? Just a show of hands, it's just like a humorous situation. So you cracked the joke, man, when you were introducing yourself. You should also raise your hand and say that. So this is where it started for me. Personally, I think I am a very funny guy. Very rarely, I in fact never perform. But the idea behind why we set up what we set up started from the fact that there was no sort of existing structural space set up to facilitate performing arts from the perspective that I saw it. I'll give you a little example about how I grew up, give you a perspective of the kind of entertainment that I consume as an audience. I grew up watching Doordarshan first. You had Diddy's comedy show, I don't know if any of you remember this show. And Giant Robot, which were the most spectacular things ever on television at that point in time. And then you had Cable TV. Cable TV, then suddenly Tom and Jerry, Small Wonder, 150 different movies that you could choose from, leading into so much choice. That was for me the first sort of development of the, how we take the internet for granted right now in terms of how much entertainment we consume. That was for me the first sort of startup that I had into entertainment, saying, look at what these guys are doing. It's just so mind-blowing when I have to see these shows and these performances. Roughly around 2008, you'll see all of these photographs over here. I didn't have a structured presentation, but these photographs will give you an indication of the variety of performers that we have had the pleasure of hosting at our platform. Some of them are highly experienced, some of them are amateur, and when I say highly experienced, I mean they have 3 years experience. Adam, who's going to be speaking here, is championing the improv scene in India, and he has so much experience. But all of the other comics have between 2 to 5 years of experience in this comedy scene. So Culture Shock, my company, was initially set up to create independent platforms for performing arts. We used to do that with a lot of the events that we continuously held, and we still hold right now. But one of the main things that we started off doing were open mics. In fact, that was the first thing that we started off with, an open mic. A very, very powerful thing, like an open mic is, it is a space where you perform. Right now, I feel like I'm at an open mic. It's a very daunting thing for a performer to stand here and talk to you, explain what he's doing and make you laugh, which is one of those scary things to do. Everybody's got this deadpan impression, a comedian also will tap. So at that point of time, there were 2 things that were happening really well. There were some open mics happening in the country. And within the open mics, what I noticed specifically was there was this great disconnect in the sense that we were a country that has so much history with comedy. And I'm saying we grew up on comedy, but regional comedy. I've seen Malayalam comedy, I've seen Tamil comedy, you've seen Hindi comedy, Gujarati comedy, you can name it, like every state has its own comic and comedian. But English comedy is where the switch happens, and English comedy is where we're training our minds to sort of say that, what is funny, what context is funny, how is it funny. So I was at these like 1 or 2 random open mics where nobody was interested in the performer. So everybody is like, hey buddy, what's up? This guy is like, hey, my name is so I'm cracking a joke, nobody's listening to me. The audience on the other end of the spectrum is completely disinterested. Right? That was one scenario. And the other scenario for me was another set of open mics where you cannot perform, get out. I'm like, shit, what is this? Like so critical and so oblivious. It's those two sort of spectrums, and I decided and said that, man, there is no possible way that a performer can get his or her own space unless you had a platform that is encouraging, supportive, and helps you develop your talent. That's it. Simple open mic that we set up in 2008. This is our 6th year now. We do open mics for poetry, comedy, music, theatre, magic, rap. These many platforms we set up. Our most successful platform to date, something that we are as a company also really proud of, is comedy. Aditi is also going to be speaking here. Sapan, somebody said he's here for Sapan. You said he's here for Sapan. You. Platforms, man. So, two ends of the spectrum in terms of what audiences were exposed to and what performers were exposed to. So when we created this sort of stopgap in between where you had an encouraging space to perform as a performer, and you had an audience that would sit and listen to you perform. Right? So that was when the big mic started. Now the big mic is an open mic that has successfully now in its 6th year provided a mic to over 700 comedians. Now I did a rough little sort of calculation. About close to 3,500 comedians have used our open mic over the last 6 years. That doesn't mean that we have 3,500 comedians in this country, but it just goes to show how many people are looking at comedy as a serious business. Right? When I mean a business, I mean a career more than anything else. Like as somebody that has the opportunity and the power to make you laugh, that in itself is a mind-blowing thing for me. So open mics as a platform, keeping in mind that some of you will take up comedy as a career, where you will be performers. But for the performers, you also need the guys who do the dirty work backstage, setting up your mic for you, standing, performance registration. That is another very, very important part of this comedy business, so to speak. One of the things that we've done quite successfully with each of these two things is that we've been able to develop two things. Remember in 2008, like everybody was still copying Russell Peters, or everybody had an accent, or everybody was just stealing jokes off the internet and coming out of the mic and talking. So it was very important for us to curate that and say that, listen man, write your own stuff, I'm here. In 2008, 2009, 2010, audiences were very difficult to have, like sit down and say, please give this fellow some 5 minutes of his time, listen to him, laugh with him. If you don't like it, go up to him after the performance and tell him why you did that. So there's two aspects. Audience development is something that we've done, and performance development is something. Performer development is something. Tanmay, you know, Utsav Chakravarti, you know, Neil Gopalan is one of the improv comics that Adam has trained. All of these people have been able to do this primarily because they existed an open mic. So one thing that's really important and one thing right now that is still lacking in the city and the country is more open mics. So from me talking from my perspective as somebody that has set up multiple open mics, it is something that is intrinsically like very, very important to understand that it is where you will see some of the finest comedians in the country perform for the first time and fail miserably. Miserably means like some of these guys that are making you laugh, cry, like hold your stomach, could not do it properly for the first time. Like we were standing there shaking like 3 minutes. 3 minutes, no? Like you get 4 minutes to talk. The most haunting 4 minutes, ask me, I tried stand-up comedy once, I got super drunk. And I was so scared and I was like, shit, I held the mic. And I said some random shit about an ex-girlfriend and then I said, shit, I can't do this. And I was like, shit, these guys have, I have the most amount of respect for anybody that does comedy because it is so difficult to make comedy laugh. Like, and to have you laugh consistently over 4 minutes, over 8 minutes, over 20 minutes. And I use these time frames because this is how comedians sort of sit and vet their sets. You know, they will write 4 minutes of material, which is like 8-9 pages. You see always the comedian writing. All that writing happened during the course of time where we sort of try to get them and encourage them to not copy stuff and not to try and write something contextually that will appeal to our sensibilities as an audience. You know, like I can't tell you, man, like at Thanksgiving, so I took a turkey, I put it on my head. You'll be like, what is Thanksgiving? Like, as opposed to like Diwali Day, I took a rocket, I threw it into my neighbor's window. That is something that you will automatically say, shit, yeah, it's funny. You know, my joke is not, but the context is funny, is what I'm saying. With audiences, another thing that we found quite difficult to do at that point of time, specifically with an open mic, was to get them to understand humor. And to get them to understand humor, we developed this scoring system. So, if you come to any of our open mics, and we hold 2 of them every month, one that's coming up this Monday, comedy, all of you should come, it's a great space, phenomenal comics come to perform. We select 4 people at random from the audience to score. Now everybody looks at this scoring as competition. We have been scoring comics for the last 5.5, 6 years. But that has been a very important exercise that we have conducted because we have not been scoring comics. We have been training audiences. It's a very different thing to do. Because I am giving 4 random people a scorecard and asking you to judge based on performance, quality of content, and the comics general behavior when he's on the mic and when he's talking. So what's happening then is that I am converting 4 people to take up comedy a little more seriously because they are paying attention, because they are judging, because our host is going to put them on the spot and say, "Arey yaar, tu judge nahi kar raha, tu usse baat kyun kar raha hai?" It was a very, very important thing. 4 random people every year, every month, over the last 6 years. A lot of things have changed for comedy. Like a lot of you know the Comedy Store, which is now Canvas Laugh Factory. Comedy Store is independently run separately. One of those things was, at that point of time, we were the only open mic in the country. It's like an impossible thing to understand. The only open mic in the country, we were operating in Bombay, Delhi, 2 cities. Some of the comedians that you see here, Rajnish Kapoor, Delhi. So we used to give everybody alcohol before they went up on stage because it made comedy a little more easier. Underage would get juice. But the point I'm making here was that at that point of time, it was very difficult for audiences to understand comedy. You know, you have a laugh track playing in jokes, ha 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 ha. Yeah. That American idea is to get you to understand as an audience when the joke is cued. So when you hear that canned laughter, ha 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 ha, you know that the joke is cued then. So we were trying to do the same thing minus the canned laughter for the audiences. And we would do this in bits and pieces where we were really happy that we had a lot of people from Comedy Central who used to come for our open mics before Comedy Central was launched in India, which is really great because it gave them an understanding of what the comedy scene is in India. We've had a lot of people, and primarily, I don't know if you know this gentleman called Don Ward. Don Ward is the owner of Comedy Store. He used to take notes at our open mic, which I'm also really picked about when I tell people, just in terms of him understanding what's happening with Indian comedy. And Indian comedy currently is poised at a very, very, very nice sweet space. Because as a business, you are now spending anywhere from 500 to 1,000 rupees to watch one man make you laugh for 1 hour. That's crazy, right? Like, a ticket costs 250 rupees, man. I go watch a 3-hour movie with like $250 million budget. And here I'm spending 1,000 rupees watching AIB, EIC, ETC, I don't know, all of these acronyms that sort of come there. It's just a testament in terms of the power of comedy. And why is it such a successful business? Laughter is why it's such a successful business. I would pay a good amount of money if I came for a shitty day and you made me laugh for 1 hour. But it's also a business that has a great sense of responsibility attached to it, because these comedians that make you laugh need to start somewhere, right? And unless they start in a platform that is conducive to their development, you will not have a business per se, you know. So this business of comedy and these startups that want to get into comedy should realize that an encouraging audience and an open performer is really important. And right now what's happening is internationally how open mics are used is that in India currently open mics are only used primarily by new comics, right? Does anybody here know who Seinfeld is? Right? Okay, all of you know who Seinfeld is, right? Really funny guy, world's richest comedian. World's richest comedian consciously does open mics. Consciously does open mics. He doesn't need to work. But he does it primarily because he gets to test the stuff that he's doing. Every single time he does it. He writes this 1 hour great set, but he would have been through 150 open mics to get that 1 hour. You know, that is what is very important. And that is how even comics right now who take up comedy, when you guys become rich and famous, don't stop doing your open mics. Because your open mics are your best connection with an audience that gives you genuine, real feedback about what it is that makes them laugh and what it is that makes them dull. I'm just very happy to say and very, very blessed and privileged that we've been able to set the stage for so many different comics at so many different periods. And it's just been an awe-inspiring experience for me when people come and say that our platform is the most encouraging, the warmest, the most friendliest, and the most supportive platform in the country. And that is something that I and everybody that's working with us at the Big Mic and Culture Shock is very happy about. So the open mic space is another space that I've dealt upon, Culture Shock is another space that I've dealt upon. And now leading into all of this, when we were doing open mics, it also dawned upon us that we were not able to get the right venues to showcase comedy. Right? So every venue had either a prerequisite that you have to get me this much in bar sales, or else you take the shittiest night of the weekend and do your performance. Right? So which is what helped us set up, or led us to set up the Hive as a space. Now the Hive as a space is you would have seen some of the photographs over here with just the performances that happen over here. This is one of the rooms that we have. Now the Hive as a space is a very interesting space because one part of it is used to develop talent, another part is used to showcase talent, and the other part is used to experiment with talent. You know? So we have comedians who come there on a week-on-week basis and try out shows, full format shows. I'm saying that you would see somebody do the same performance at the NCPA. That same performance would happen to 50 people just before the NCPA performance. And these are people that are like the world's, India's best comedians have used this space for this purpose. All of our open mics now happen at the Hive. This is our outdoor area in the Hive. And the comedy open mics now happen leading into and also give us the opportunity to identify the next best comedians that then in turn we push into a featured slot for a Friday and Saturday. Now all of these guys who feature as a Friday and Saturday slot, all of the comedians that we are working with currently, in any other outlet you will see them doing the Wednesday, the Thursday, not the important slots because they're still not very big comics. But to give comedians like this or have the opportunity to give comedians like this a platform on a Friday and a Saturday, which are like premier shows, is another great thing that we use the Hive for. So what we do with Culture Shock is set up an open platform for performances with the Big Mic. And with the Hive, we extend this performance from open mic into curated showcases. And also an experimental platform for comedians to use. So that has been my conversation about what we do and why comedy is important. I hope you understand, like when they say that like laughter is the best medicine, like you all heard it. So Each of these comics, when they go up on stage and they talk, they are like neurosurgeons. Like these guys will do more for you than a doctor will do in an hour. So give them a lot of respect. The next time that you are in an open mic, speak to the comics after they finish. Tell them what you, if you are not a comedian, tell them what you really liked about the show, what you really did not like about the show. It really helps them write the material and sets the tone for where they will be in another 5 years, another 10 years. Thank you. I hope to see you all at the time whenever you get the chance.
If you guys have any questions for Sudeip?
The hive is located in Chumim village. Google Map it is quite a prominent location. But out of the blue, Olive, if you are aware of it, we're doing an improv comedy showcase on the 14th on Tuesday. You should definitely come down and see it. But generally search for it. It's in Bangalore, just off Carter. Is anybody here getting into the open mic space or any comedy promoters here or want to be comedy promoters?
That you face initially while setting it up in terms of attracting talent, in terms of attracting people to come and invest their time with these audiences. So how do you go about convincing people, and if somebody wants to start up something similar, what are the main challenges in terms of finance, in terms of marketing, and in terms of establishing an identity?
So as such, the hype was is still a very challenging space because a lot of people still do not understand the purpose of the hype. The purpose of the hype is for independent entrepreneurs like yourselves. Is we have facilities and infrastructure spread across 6,000 square feet in the heart of Bangalore for you to use. So if you're an event organizer, we have performance areas, we have workshop spaces, all of that to take care of your requirements and needs. If you're a performer, you can use this space to again like showcase your own performance. But the challenges that we faced is primarily from the fact that internationally experimental venues like this are packed. Whereas in fact they're packed throughout the year. The calendar year will be filled with just people trying. I think our problem over here is that a majority of people are just a little afraid to try. So that initial push itself is what is the biggest challenging thing. But once they try and then they realize that they are very good person. So we use Facebook primarily. It is the most important medium for us to communicate on. And every one of you should consider this as the most important medium to get through to your audience. Keeping in mind specific metrics about how much time people spend on Facebook. Social media more than anything else. So we're a very active community. BigMic.in is a website that we have also set up, which is currently, I think, India's largest resource for amateur artists. Or it's a database of amateur artists that come. We have about 1,100 performers on the website across comedy, poetry, theatre, magic, rap. So the website is another space that we use to perform. We've got a mailing list to be promoted. Okay, so the monetizing bit is a little difficult to understand because we have not made any money off our open mics since the 6 years that we operated. We've made very, very negligible amounts of money because the money was not in, like, even currently right now I get really irritated because you go to Big Mic or you go to any other open mic and they charge the performer to perform. So if you're a comedian and you go into any of these other open mics, you have to pay 200 rupees, you have to get 4 people, plus you have to get like some other like 100 calculations before you come and perform. So that in itself is such an irritating thing because if you're already exploiting comedians before they start comedy, that leaves you very little space for them itself to grow. So what we should do is we collect 100 rupees at the door and we should take the 100 rupees and give it to the winning performer at the end of the night. So the winning performer at the end of the night, and we have done this consistently over 6 years, which means that somebody's done somebody's dinner, somebody's like first comedy show, somebody's first comedy ticket, somebody's first comedy salary has been stuff that we wanted them to get used to as comics. Man, your profession will give you money. You know, the money comes in from after you're an established comic and you start doing curated shows where you have ticketed shows. That's when the pressure and the expectation and the charges and the ticketing and all that come in. And that's when the money is also created.
It's like any other performance.
Which one? No, potential to make a lot of money. Once you put up a show, yes. But for an open mic, there is like, unless I get a corporate sponsor or a grant or some of these sort of like benevolent individuals to come and say, "Hey, why artist?" Like that kind of a thing, if it happens, that's great. But everybody else will tell you, "Acha, make this guy wear my T-shirt, make this guy wear my cap, and this guy will look like a fool taking his prize because he's got like a shell, like 100 brands you put on your face for an open mic doesn't lead anywhere." So that's my answer to one.
That's the money for the artist. What about the money for your organization?
So open mics will we like I said, like we provide the performers with a fee, a prize, a cash prize, and as an organization, we don't charge. We used to charge venues earlier. Just want to do ticketed shows where we do open mics. But other than that, it's not the open mic per se that generates the money as much as the curated shows and ticketed shows that we do. The open mic is only talent development, right? And you have to look at it from a conscious point of view that you have to be patient with. And they say that I'm going to help these guys develop their talent, and then in turn work with them, help them set up shows that we're able to produce, and then we pay. So it's that sort of thing.
Have you ever considered participating in events like wedding events, etc., where somebody pays the...
That's again, I would consider that a curated show or a ticketed show. Like those sort of platforms are all where money is made. So your child's birthday party. No, your child's birthday party, somebody's anniversary.
Lots of guests coming in.
That's what we do. So as an open mic is different, and as these platforms is different. So you make your money. It is a good way, and that's how we do it as well. So, any other questions?
You talked about how through these events, there's been this process of getting audiences more used to, I guess, the idea of comedy in English. And although it's getting more and more popular, do you see it getting even like the path to it becoming more mainstream? Like you mentioned, like Jerry Seinfeld, and you like super successful comics like that. They usually like TV show, like online content. Do you see it like becoming more mainstream?
So that will happen now, I guess. Like from here onwards. See, like you have to understand, like for English comedy, like countries like America and the UK have grown up on this, which means that they are already like 60, 70 years ahead of us, you know. And when I look at like even today when I look at comedians and they say that, "Hey man, listen, I'm a comic, I'm like a superstar," and that dude is doing like only 4 years of it more, like write more, like perform more. But that's the thing with the internet also. Like a lot of these comics have shifted their content online. So in that sense, I guess you could say, like when you look at Seinfeld has given like some 20-25 years. BCK, like one of the world's best comedians, is doing 20-25 years before you make like reach the $150 million salary that you're walking away with. For us, what's really important is guys like you watching Comedy Central, Star World, Premiere, like all of these channels. When we have like 20, 30, 40 lakh people watching all of these channels, then we this sort of superstardom. So currently right now the numbers are very like 1,000 people, 1,500, this is nothing. Like Johnny Lever will do 20,000 people, like if he's given a chance. But you know, like somebody like a All India Rock Show, will do 1,000 people, 1,500 people, 2,000 people, 5,000 people. It's still an indication of where we are still mentally as an audience. And what culture should we get exposed to? These coming months.
What would you say would be the difference between Johnny Lever and All India? Like they do their content in Hindi just the same, right? So it's not English to be necessarily. What would you say would be the difference?
Johnny Lever's got mass appeal, which means that he appeals to like from your. I'm not going to go classist on this, but like low income, middle income, high income, all of these brackets Johnny Lever fits in very well. All India Bakchor will fit into one kind of bracket. So it's college kids speaking Hindi, English, any of these sort of people that are exposed to YouTube. So their reach is limited to how many people are on YouTube. Whereas Johnny Lever's reach is limited to how many people know him through cinema, know him through his stage shows, know him, has seen him in person, understand the pain or plight of the person whenever he's come from, the struggle that he's faced. Which is why he has so much more mass appeal. Like if Johnny Leo went to Arunachal Pradesh and stood in the middle of the square, people would mob him. Tanmay Bhatt went to Arunachal Pradesh and they would be like, hey, that kind of scene. It was that.
So you said that most of your monetizing will come once the art becomes famous and you start integrating shows. But do you see them then moving into the movie business?
So, moving into the movie business is a hurdle.
For you, because then they call people to be doing stage shows. So
No, but the life and like a comedian's love, or first love is this mic. So nothing will draw him away from the mic. Even the biggest guys that you see, Veerdas, Anubhav Pal, Papa CJ, like these guys will get like 100. Like Veerdas especially, he's done a lot of comedy and he's done a lot of cinema as well, movies. But you will never see him not do a show. Saying, I'm a movie star, I'm a show. Like that kind of thing will never happen. So that's. So you will always have a promoter who will have like an opportunity to work for comedy because they want to stand up comedy. What's interesting right now is that it's not only stand up comedy, but stand up comedy is now what like we have sketch comedy, we have improv comedy, that we talk about. There are so many different kinds of like comedy options as well that give you so many different options. Not everybody wants to get into Bollywood. It's that kind of space. Yeah.
Can you just tell me, like these comedy clubs, I think there are quite a few here in Mumbai also. So as a business, the comedy club is it a lucrative thing? Do you think it will take off or it's going to just remain stagnant?
So one of the reasons why we set up a very small room for our performance room was in our opinion like comedy still had a very small. If I needed to do comedy regularly, day in and day out, I cannot sustain it with a 300 seater venue, 500 seater venue. I could sustain it with a 50 seater venue because for me 50 is an achievable audience. You know, so but when you look at places like Canvas Factory, Comedy Store, they are sitting on rents of like 7 or 8, 9 lakhs a month. And to offset that rent, now you are charging all of us, like poor people, 700 rupees to 1000 rupees to come and watch a show. That is the problem. We charge between 200 to 300 rupees a show. Our idea, and that question which I was posing, is to make comedy accessible. Unless English comedy is accessible, how will it reach you? Tomorrow if I start charging 1000 rupees, 2000 rupees ticket prices, you will never see some of the comics that you would have otherwise seen paying 200 rupees. That's the...
So to add on to this, today there is a very interesting article in Times of India where they have talked about Barcelona comedy clubs. What they face the same problem that because of huge entertainment tax, the ticket price were skyrocketing and they lost their audience. So what they are doing with the new technology is that they are placing the tablet and a sensor on a seat and they are going to charge each patron or customer who is going to come and the amount of time they have laughed. So I don't know how it would work today. That's what they are going to do.
So, me understanding that context in India would be somebody like just no laughter, that kind of thing. It will not happen. But one of the things, like, just to point out, like, we are not facing a tax issue, like, as such as a country. We're just facing, like, we're just opportunists at the wrong time. You know, it's...
No, it's not a joke, you can check it out. I'm serious about it.
Do you think Bollywood or comedy shows on popular channels are the best way to kind of reach the audience or at least be commercially successful?
Completely. Which is what, like now is stuff that you will see, like channels like Comedy Central, English channels, like couples, Comedy Nights with Couple, highest grossing show, but Hindi show. But Hindi show where all of us will laugh. Like all of us will sit and watch couple show and we will laugh for 1 hour. But I will put Seinfeld on and 15% of you will laugh. You know, it's that sort of a shift in terms of like how you understand comedy, what is working. But Comedy Central and networks with so much money and with so much resources, and especially that provide you with a national platform, if they invest money into comedians developing like local content, which they're doing right now, they're working with a lot of comedians, preparing like sketches, preparing shows. That is what will be like an incredible sort of boost when they get national airtime. And somebody like in Meerut or somebody again like in Arunachal Pradesh has got his Tata Sky and he's put on his channel and then he sees like Kenny Sebastian, he sees like an Adam Dow, any of these guys, like Adam's Group, like, all of these guys, when you're reaching that sort of like space, then it makes sense.
Thank you very much, Sudeip. We'll take all the questions from this. We can just take it from
Start
back.
and we get to see comedy here, or it's just a.
So you want me to do comedy? Or Sudeep?
I'm not a comedian, I told you what happened.
So we do have few comedians coming. You are there.